we had one guy miss a block on it. If he would have made his block, I mean, we're getting that return out to the 50. And, you know, obviously a kick return, you know, it's like an offensive play. You have to have, you know, everybody doing their job, and somebody missed up on that one.
No reason to change necessarily, but you sticking with Nicole Hardman going into the second half as your both returns?
Yeah, McCole, we have faith in McCole. McCole's fine, you know, keep improving on his decision making, and we'll be fine. Got a long way to go. We're getting better and better each week.
It's been a while since the game, right? So I'm trying to think back to this. We've asked you a lot about McColl's returns and when to catch it and when to not catch it. You caught that one really deep.
Yeah.
Right, like the 2-yard line. Is that the right thing to do in that position?
Not in that situation. I mean, that one, he kind of kept drifting back. We had a return call, so he wanted to return it. We had double the gunners, and, you know, we had a return set up, but the ball just kept drifting back, and he's got to have awareness of where he was at. That probably would have been a touchback. Probably. I mean, if it hits, it's going to go touchback.
Right, at the midway point, who's the leader on your points board on special teams?
That's a good question. Right now, you know, Bucker is just crushing everybody. But I mean, you take the kickers and the punter out of it. I mean, you got Leo Chenal, who's very, very consistent. He's been playing great, and then a rookie Connor is really doing well. Number 27, Shamari. I mean, he is, for a rookie, he's a good player, really good player.
Last one. You're off.
That is the last one. All right, thanks. See you later.
Good to see you. Just fired up to get back out there and keep. It's nice we've gotten this weather, huh? We get outside yesterday. We'll get outside again today. So with that, I'll just open it up.
How big is the challenge to try to slow down A.J. Brown and what he's done?
Yeah.
He did a really nice job against number one.
Yeah, it was a challenge when we played him, whatever it was, 10 months ago, and it hasn't gotten any easier. You know, it all begins with the quarterback, and I got a lot of respect for this quarterback. I mean, certainly after having played him, and we had respect for him before that. But so I'm going to start with Jalen, just because I think he's one of those quarterbacks to me that can beat you with his brain, he can beat you with his legs, and he can beat you with his arm. And I mean, that's pretty dynamic threesome for a quarterback to have, because not all of them can do that. And he's been in the system a long time, they do the right things with him. He gets them in and out of plays. He can get them out of a run play and throw it with the RPO game. He does it all. He's faster than you think he is. We put tape on this morning, and just when you think you got him, he's in and out of there. So a lot of respect for him. And then he's got the one weapon you're talking about, but he's got them all over the place with the wideouts. And we're going to be totally in tune to that because we feel like the explosive plays kind of bit us the last time we played them. We've got to eliminate those, try to make them earn it a little bit. And then the other thing that happened that we all remember is they had the ball for a long time. So we began this week with first and second down are huge. To end up in those short of third downs is really tough against this team. I mean, they'll run it on a 3rd and 7, and then go for it on 4th down. We know that. So they keep you on your toes. So we just feel like first and second down is a key down for us in this game. Like key downs.
Steve, you faced a number of the league's top receivers this year.
Yeah.
You've done a pretty nice job against them. Other than guys who are playing well in the secondary, something you can put your finger on why you've been able to?
Well, in most of those, I'm going to give LJ a lot of credit now. In a lot of those games, we did travel him. And if he didn't end up on them, usually Trent did, and that was on purpose. Whether we'll be able to do that or not with this team will remains to be seen because, listen, Smith's pretty good wideout too. So this is a team that really has two dynamic wideouts. So we'll be a little bit careful either way. But I would give LJ a lot of credit for that and the fact that the secondary has really functioned well chemistry-wise and as a unit. And anytime you're playing a pass attack, when you get your DBs to do that, it makes it a little bit better.
How well is the secondary playing the blitz?
Well, I think I was looking at it in this bye week, but I think we've been pretty effective on that. I think they've been really good. Now, some of our blitzes are zone behind it, some of them are man behind it, and we ask them it's a little bit interchangeable sometimes when we call those things, and they've been on point in terms of being on the same page together. We all know what happens when the secondary isn't on the same page, right? There's busts, but for the most part, we've been pretty solid in that.
You mentioned LJ. He's had a couple of penalties in the last few games. How do you? It's a fine line, right? Like you
Yeah.
still want him to be aggressive.
Yeah. Well, there's some cost to doing business penalties when you're a press team and you're going against a really good wideout and you're trying to be aggressive and you try to take that guy out of the game. Now, LJ will tell you that he knows that he can be a little bit better. Sometimes the hands get a little bit too high, right? And we get hands to the face, or we get a little grabby. We can avoid those. But I really don't want LJ to become less aggressive. So he'll probably maintain that and hopefully not get as many penalties.
Steve, you talked about cost of business penalties like
Yeah,
that. Those
cost of doing business penalties,
Yeah.
yeah.
Where do you draw the line there?
Yeah, they're not all, most of them are not, the undisciplined ones, like we don't want to be jumping offside. We don't want to take, personal fouls, those aren't.
Down the field.
Yeah. Listen, sometimes it gets tough down there. I mean, if a guy felt like, we had no help behind him and he felt like he was going to beat for a touchdown, you see guys grab because it's like, I'd rather take the penalty than give up the touchdown. There's not, when I use that term, there's not many that I put in that category. When we put the penalties up this week of what happened in the Miami game, to me, there was only one. We had 5 or 6, so for the most part, we try to avoid them.
Was there a little bit of frustration with Chris with that penalty that he had against the Dolphins? You were getting off the field and he gets the first one.
Yeah, Chris knows that. I think if his emotions just got the better of him. And hopefully going forward, we'll be better at that.
Coach, I know when you first came in first year, I remember at training camp, you said, don't judge us on what we're going to be early, judge us on later. And
Yeah.
sure enough, you guys really picked up steam and were better going on. Last year, the theme was, look at all these young guys and wow, they're playing well. Now you're playing even better.
Yeah.
Is that a process of you're able to give more to them? Like we're getting all the way into the Steve Spagnuolo defense? Or
A little
is it just they've been in it and they act faster?
I think it's probably more that because we haven't changed too much. There's been curveballs here and there. I talked with him this week about, listen, we've had some success, but you can't get a playoff berth in half a season. You can't win a Super Bowl by winning 7 games. There's a lot more to this, and so we want to be doing that as we go. And part of that is, when you got 9 games of film, talking about on our defense, offensive coaches in this league are pretty smart. They start to figure out. So we got to be able to put some tweaks in there. And I think with this group, to what you're saying, I think you can do that because everything else they feel like they're confident in doing what they're doing. So you throw a couple of curveballs at a team. Hopefully that keeps you ahead of the curve.
And Dave's just a follow, Dave's your position coach on that, he's obviously, got a lot to do.
Dave Merritt, you talking about? Yeah.
And he was with you in New York,
Yeah.
won the championship, are
Yeah.
you surprised not a defensive coordinator in this league already?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think we got a bunch of guys on the defensive staff that could do that. Joe certainly has already done it. Brendan's been, he's been doing it for a long time. I hope that happens for all of them. It's like when I was in Philadelphia and Jim Johnson was the coordinator, he was hoping myself, Sean McDermott, Leslie Frazier, Ron Rivera would all, and it happened, and I hope that for our guys too. I really do.
You mentioned second and third down. Obviously on 3rd and 1/4 and 1, they have the rugby style. Any beat on any win potentially?
Yeah, I'll get back to you on that. Listen, we watched. I think Washington had one play where they actually did a pretty good job, and I think they might have been a stop. Then they went for it on 4th. And that's the thing. If you stop on 3rd and 1 for a half a yard, they come right back on 4th down. You got to do it again. Listen, we'll try to be as stout in there as we can. I don't have any secrets on it. I wish I did. The best thing we can do is try not to be in those situations. That's why I'm going back to 1st and 2nd down.
Yesterday, Chris mentioned watching rugby film.
Yeah.
He was joking, but is that?
I don't know if he had. I haven't put any rugby film up, but it wouldn't surprise me if they were taking a look at that or talking to people that do it. Maybe that's the way to go. I don't know enough about. I love rugby when it comes on. I'll watch it once in a while, but I don't know enough about it. I know that thing moves though, right? I mean, it's not like it goes backwards all the time, so I don't know. But when it moves, it's not for a first down, right?
So,
With that, Steve, is there, do you spend more time on it from a rep standpoint than
Yeah.
what you would normally do, or is it just something where you have to trust the guys to just?
Yeah, there's a little bit of trust involved. I mean, look, we cannot simulate that in practice. I mean, you got to be full padded and be doing that, and we don't practice. Nobody in the league practices that way now. And so it's more of a, it's an assignment thing. We're talking to guys about maybe we could do this. We're trying to steal things that were on tape that we thought were pretty good. But it's a mano deal, right? They're pushing us. We try to push them back.
2 more.
Steve, you mentioned
Sorry,
4th
Nathan.
downs. Obviously, if the Eagles are as aggressive as anybody
Yeah.
in 4th downs, just, you don't have a choice in whether or not they're going for a 4th down. You did once, but a lot has changed in that short time analytically. I'm just wondering how you view just the concept of
Going for it.
4th downs.
Yeah. Oh, well, look at that. I mean, I'm on the other end of that, right? We're at the mercy of whether they decide to do it or not. I mean, a lot of it depends on how you feel about your offensive guys, where you are in the game, the risk reward, and it feels like more people are getting riskier. But this particular team, they feel pretty good about when it's only that far to go, right? And they've been pretty successful at it. So.
Coach, another kind of big picture one, the defenses as a whole in the league are playing lighter and lighter in the box, yet this year they're better at stopping the run.
Is that right?
Yeah.
When they do that stat, are those run plays they're counting only with lighter box counts or just runs in general?
I think the way it was phrased, lighter box, they're better with lighter box. Defenses overall are better.
With lighter
fewer men in the
boxes,
box,
yeah.
and they're doing a better job of stopping the run. Is that more an indication offenses aren't running anymore? They've been hearing how you gotta throw all the time, and they're not as good running it, or you guys
I don't
figured
know
out
that.
something on your side
Yeah.
that's better?
I'm not sure I got a good answer for that one. I'd have to go and look at it a little bit. I mean, I know from our standpoint, we're always, really, it doesn't matter who we play. We're always going to begin with, you got to stop the run first, because I just feel like if you can't do that, any good football team, offensive coaches are just going to keep running it, especially with the quarterback we have, So but I don't have an answer for that one. But that'll be an off-season study.
Thank you, Steve.
How's everybody doing? Good. All right, how are you?
Hey, Matt, when you look at your deep passing game, it hasn't been as successful as I'm sure you guys would like. I know defenses are playing you a certain way, but is that the reason for it, or are there some things you guys need to execute there?
It's probably a little bit of everything. We obviously look at that stuff. You want to be able to take shots. You want to be able to run the football. There's a lot of things you want to do, but you also have to adjust to what defenses are giving you and what they're not giving you. So I think when you look at right now with our downfield numbers, we're still taking shots, right? Probably the biggest thing is we want to, however that is, we want to be able to be a little bit more efficient with those numbers. So it's not, I mean, you still need to keep defenses honest, however you do it. And I think that our coaches and players on staff do a pretty good job of trying to figure out different ways with different personnel. But we're certainly taking the shots. I think efficient-wise, we can be better.
And you talked about, you know, guys like Rashee Rice, you have a package and kind of going from there with where it is. Big picture, I know there's, you know, all these option routes. Your offense is quite complicated and it's a process for everybody to learn it. But I don't think, you know, off the top of my head, I don't think you have any receiver that's been here more than 2 years, right? So everybody's fairly new.
Sure.
And then you got a bunch of young guys too that are new to the NFL. Is there a scaling back of the offense? Is that, or is it, we got to get to where we got to get to, and they get eventually they got to get the whole package, or do you have to, for
There's
lack of a
not-
better term, dumb it down?
Yeah, no, there's not a scaling back on it. That's one of the things Coach Reed has always done. Every year I've been with him since back in Philadelphia, it's always been starting in training camp OTAs, give them a lot, see what they can do well, and then adjust accordingly to their strengths. With the guys that we've had and what you just mentioned with having a couple guys, or most of the guys that are here, you know, a couple years, there's a little bit of putting the puzzle together of what they do well. The timing element is probably the biggest thing that I think, forget us as coaches, but Patrick with the guys, is trying to figure out what routes they run well and then the timing element to that with the defense. So I do feel like these guys are really mentally starting to grasp what we're trying to get from them. And we're doing a good job of trying to figure out what they do well. And now Patrick's doing a good job of practicing those routes with them. Now at this point in the season, we've set ourselves up record-wise to be able to really know that, hey, we keep doing good things. We keep getting this thing better on offense. It's a challenge for us. And I think players and coaches, we want to do that. We understand that we can be better. But at the same point in time, big picture from the self-scout and looking back, there's two big things that jump out, and that would be the penalties and the turnovers. And I'm saying specifically offense for us. So it's not that we're not moving the football or we're struggling, but those are the two big ones that we got to reduce with our defense the way they're playing. I think, you know, we can really make good things happen.
Talking about guys grasping things, and with Rice in particular, he had the most snaps of any of the receivers against Miami. Is that an indication that he is grasping things a bit more, and is it just a matter of the targets will come with those snaps?
Probably. He's, again, done a good job of trying to understand this offense and how he fits and how we fit him into certain things and us figuring out what he does well. So you'll probably continue, and that's a good thing. I mean, again, when you draft somebody, you want to develop them, and it takes a little bit of time. It doesn't happen overnight. There's some ups and downs with it. There's some frustrations and excitement. But if the kid wants to be great, and we have great wide receivers, guys that want to be great, it's just a matter of continuing to just keep practicing and then getting out on that field and producing.
Coach, the Dolphins did a nice job against Travis, and we see that sometimes where they're able to limit him. On the fly, and you see a team have success early, how does that change you and Coach Reed's process of, like, we need to maybe work through something else on the fly here?
Well, really, to be honest with you, it's never changed. It's always been that way with Kels from the start. And now what we have to try to figure out is, okay, just working into what defenses are doing specifically coverage-wise, timing that up with what they're doing to Kels, and then working through the timing elements and the newness of the new receivers, matching all that together. Kelsey has been seeing double teams his entire career. That hasn't changed. How people get to it hasn't changed. So we know adjustment-wise within a game, we got to prepare game plan-wise, and we got to prepare in game with Kels. The other stuff is a matter of preparing each week and adjusting each week with those guys and matching it all together. But none of that has changed with Kels, the game plan-wise stuff.
Matt, is there a common theme in regards to penalties and turnovers that you're noticing that you can sort of say if you just do this better, it'll naturally lead to fewer penalties and turnovers?
I don't think there's a theme to it, but it certainly happened too much. And it's all about, it's tied into rhythm. And you look at, like, in Germany against Miami, we came out the first drive, great energy, efficient, go down, score a touchdown or a supposed touchdown, gets called back, and score another one.
Right.
And it felt great on the sideline. First half, better drives, things were good, no penalties. We stayed away from the penalties, and then we come out in the second half, and we had 2 big penalties that just stalled drives, and then we had a fumble, we had a turnover on a sack fumble. All of that happens, and we had control of that game. We were in a great place. And so when you got to punt the ball, you go 3 and out. If you have turnovers, it's not like it's happening all the time, but when it's happening, and it just goes to show, I look at it from the positive side, and Coach Reed, preaches this all the time, and we all do, is that the good thing is that if you just reduce those and eliminate them, great. If you reduce them, just look at where we can be, because we're doing a lot of great things. The players are doing a great job of executing. We just got to reduce that negative stuff.
Based on that discussion, do you feel like, I guess, how do you shape the idea of like, we need to change offensively versus what we're doing is working based on the defenses we're seeing, and just trying to stick with what you guys have presented so far?
Yeah, we have an identity on offense that changes every year with the personnel and the people. We also, even scheme-wise, it changes as well. But throughout the season, as you go through and you see where things are at, if it's a penalty, what are the penalties? Are they false starts? Are they holds? Whatever those are, how do we reduce that? And then we lock in on that. And the guys most of the time know that. The turnover stuff, what happened on the play? Was the play open? Was it a poor decision? Was it a drop? Was it a tip pass? When was it? And so we take all that into account, because in the end, the team that has the best turnover margin as a team, offense, defense, special teams, is going to have a phenomenal chance of being in where we want to be. We're a part of that on offense. So we got to respect the football and take good care of it, but yet still keep that aggressive mentality that we've always had, and adapt to the way that defenses are now playing across the league, and be able to accept that and find different ways to exploit it.
You mentioned the different penalties, and that's an oddity. We talked so much about the Jawan with the false starts, but you guys as a team really don't have a problem with that. But you're, I think, one of the 5 most penalized teams with holding. How do you address that? I mean, is it when they occur? I mean, is it sometimes they're holding on the ball too long? Is there any comment?
Yeah, there is some of that, Matt. There's for an example is, I can't think of one specific play, but I do know, and from playing this game a long time and playing myself the quarterback position, is you can also help out the O-lineman and when it happens. So if you, for instance, as for Pat or for any quarterback, when you drop back, if you drop back too far and your feet aren't right, and then you try to flush the pocket, and for whatever reason you had a good pocket in the middle and you flushed out and the guy just instinctively grabbed them, that if that's happening too much, then you got to be aware of that, the O-line and the quarterback. If it happens every now and then, we like when Patrick scrambles at times too. So we can't, it's a double sword edge. Like, you can't say, well, don't do this because good things happen. You got to be careful with it. So we've looked at all of that, and we just, we want to focus on, hey, just trying to keep your hands tight inside with the holds. Pat, when you're in the pockets, trust your feet and your timing, stay within the progression of the play. All these guys know this stuff. And now we just go do it, but we got to practice it. And when you practice that way, you usually play that way.
What are you seeing from Philadelphia as you prepare for this game that's any different than what you saw when you guys prepared for the Super Bowl?
There's some differences. Obviously, I know Coach Desai well with being together for 4 years in Chicago schematically. Have a lot of respect for him. Players are a lot of the same, and they play hard. They play a physical style of football. They complementary football with their offense and special teams. We got to be able to protect up front. We got to be able to do all 3 phases for us, and whatever that is, whether it's run, play action, every part of it, we got to be good and know that they're good. Great defense with great schemes. So I think schematically there's some differences, but nothing too crazy.
Matt, we hear about superstar athletes making their players better. How much do you see Patrick taking ownership and wanting to make his receivers better?
All the time, and I probably it's probably not out there as much as it should be with his accountability. He's the first one. Now he's going to get on guys and all of us when things need to be done the right way, but the reason why that carries so much more weight is because he does it to himself. And whether it's breaking down a huddle after a game, win or loss, whether it's in between series, whether it's at practice, whether it's in a meeting, he holds himself to a high standard, and he there's, I think it's just so impressive to always have, like, he does that all the time. So when you have that, it carries a lot of weight, and the guys respect that. The coaches respect that. We're all in this thing together, and we're just very lucky to have them.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. How's everybody doing? Got a great day out there. I mean, festive time of the year, getting ready for Thanksgiving, and a big game on Monday night against a heck of a football team. Obviously, we know what's at stake here. We're going up against a team that we played in the Super Bowl, best team right now in the NFL, and they do a great job. Coach Sirianni and his staff, Coach Stoutland, the offensive line coach, been there for a long time. He's as good as there is in the league, and they do a great job with their run game. Coach Johnson is new offensive coordinator, and it looks like they haven't missed a beat, and they got weapons all over the place. So I'm sure Coach Spags talked about what our task is, and we have a big one. And with that, I'll open it up for questions.
Joe, we saw on Frankfurt after Chris's penalty, kind of giving it to him on the sideline. Just wondering what you could share as what you're trying to press upon him in that moment.
Chris, no, that's a little tough love. But no, I mean, Chris is obviously a very smart, intelligent player, and sometimes your emotions just try to keep them in check. And let's get him on the next snap when it's live. But grateful that didn't hurt us, and it could have, and just a learning lesson. But no, that's behind us, and Chris has been great.
Karlaftis and Dana continue to grow in their own right, but how much of an impact has Chris had on their ability to kind of win this year?
I tell you, Chris does a great job. I mean, Chris has been a great leader this year. And last year, I mean, when George came in, and he was with Mike before, but taking those guys under his wing, and I mean, he loves that room. Chris is the piston that drives the engine. And but when people are focusing on Chris, I know if I was game planning him, I'd have 2 or 3 on him, and every snap I'd have someone account for him, and that opens up lanes for other guys to make plays, and as a group, that's all you want, just to make the plays when you have the one-on-ones, and Chris has done a great job of that.
That trio with George, Mike, and Chris, they're on pace for all having double-digit sacks. That doesn't happen very often. That's a pretty rare feat. How special is it to have 3 guys of that caliber?
We don't even know that. We just know that it's the next snap. Coach Spags calls the defense, puts us in position for the players to make plays, and we always talk about this in the room, and Chris said it the other day, when all 4 as a front, or 5, when Coach brings 5, are working together, it doesn't matter. It's the unit that gets the sack. It's the Kansas City Chiefs. And when that happens, good things happen as a defense.
Coach, besides the obvious of keeping them out of 3rd and 1, right? Like, you're going to face their tush push. And it's been incredibly successful. They got you a lot, obviously, in the Super Bowl with it. Got any new magic wrinkle, any new advice for the guys, any reason?
If anyone has any new ideas, let me know. But no, that's something we've really talked about after that game, and Coach Spags over the offseason, and just being able to get a little bit lower, do a few things that maybe will help it. And last year they jumped and they got us to jump, but we got them in a 3rd and 1. They jumped, and then we got the touchdown right after that. So it's about stopping it with leverage, and then people being able to get the quarterback, because the extra push and the second push is really what gets you. But we're going to try to do everything we can to keep them out of those situations. Let's get them 3rd and long.
I get the feeling that, like, your take on it, it's in the game, we got to deal with it anyway. But should that play be in the game? Do you think that?
I know this. It's a legal play, so we're going to coach against it. And to me, we have to get ready for anything. And if it's legal, we're getting ready for it.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Next one up. Go for Connor.
Rashid got 41 snaps against Miami. That was the most of that receiver group. How much is that just an indication of how he's come along and has grown since you got him in?
Yeah, no, he's coming along throughout the season. I like where he's at. He's working well, working hard every day. And then just the snap count, it depends. You guys know we got 7, 8 receivers, so it's kind of whoever's the hot hand will keep feeding, and then just next man up kind of mentality and stay ready. So he's doing good.
Connor, at least outside the building, there's, I think the perception is that the quarterback and receivers haven't always been on the same page this year. What's just the thought inside that room on that?
Yeah, I think a lot of it just takes time. I think it takes time. Like I said, we got 7, 8 receivers. I think throughout the season, we just little by little, we're getting, better chemistry, more in touch with each other, kind of understanding when we get this look, what Pat's thinking, what the wideouts are thinking. So was a big group coming in this offseason, a bunch of new faces, and now that we're kind of settling in and figuring out kind of who can do what, and it's that. So that's it.
How much of, like, when you say getting better, is it, like, what tells you, what are the signs you're looking for? Is it just, like, reading a play correctly, and therefore you've got some options on where to go, and the receiver goes to the spot that Pat's wanting him to go?
Yeah, I think, there's a lot of ways you can tell or see if someone's getting better, and I think it's by each player is different. You can, they might pick up something quicker than the other player, and this guy might have to work harder maybe off the field than on the field with mental stuff. So it just depends.
Last one, anybody? Cool. Thanks,
I was
everyone.
gonna say, I had just one more.
Okay.
Just, you talked about, having 7, 8 receivers. How difficult is it to, keep those guys fresh and keep their heads in the game?
Mhm.
There might not, maybe the ball's not gonna go to them in some weeks.
Yeah, and that's part of the learning experience. Most of these guys in this room, they've played every snap their whole life. They've always been the best guy out there and never off the field. So that's a learning experience where you have to learn, hey, this game I might get 15 reps, the next game I might get 40, like you were talking about Rashid. So you just got to be locked in, know what you're doing, know kind of what role we have for you in the game, and then when the play comes for you to make it, you got to make it.
Following on that, just to, are you eventually looking for 3 or 4 guys to step up by the time playoffs come, or are you okay with this deep rotation?
Yeah, no, I think we're okay with it. We got good players. It's not like we're trying to force 8 receivers out there that can't play. So the reason we got them is because they can play. So, and then that's on us to figure out, and the receivers on them to be pros, and when your number's called, go make a play.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Connor.
Go for Coach Giardi.
Hey, Coach, Matt was talking about, with the holding penalties, that's been an area where there's been the most, but there's a relationship between the quarterback and the O-line, and there is a quarterback role in helping to avoid those. But how do you do that? How do you kind of work to help try and cut those down in the second half, and what Pat can do?
Yeah, from a quarterback standpoint, it's going to come down to getting the ball out on time, things like that. So that would be the big thing. If something there, take it, go through your progressions, and if your first, second, they're there, take them. Sometimes quarterbacks can get caught extending plays, and Pat's great at that. So you also have to weigh that as well. But from a quarterback standpoint, if there's a hold, that's typically going to be things like that, not getting the ball out on time, just in general.
Was there a certain area of focus that you had during the bye week?
Yeah, I mean, we had a chance to go back, look at, really everything, scheme, obviously my position, quarterback, for me, through those things, and preach that's been, kind of the message.
It seems like you guys used to be able to throw it down the field, left and right. How do you feel like Pat through half the season is adjusted to like living in the intermediate and those coming maybe fewer and far between?
Yeah, I think, he's grown there. I feel like that's somewhere he's grown throughout his career. Just if it's not there, getting to the check down. And there's times that, he wants to make that big play. And like, we love that about Pat and, his willingness to try to hit that big play. But he has grown, he has developed and taken the underneath stuff. It could be something in the flat and then let our guys go make a play. So he's definitely, grown there and something that he sees and knows that's available to him.
You've had probably a better look at it than almost anybody has, but between, him last year with the ankle injury, and this year he's had a few little dings, he has a hand laceration, flu game. I mean, his ability to just kind of gut through things,
Yeah.
How unique is that?
Well, you love it about him. I mean, he's a competitor, and he wants to win, and he wants to give everything he has for this team and for the guys in the locker room, for us as coach. I mean, he loves these guys, and he wants, like I said, he wants to win. He's a competitor, so he's going to do everything he can to get out there and play, and give it everything he's got.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Thanks.
How are you?
Go for Coach Merritt.
We were talking with Spags about penalties for LJ. He's had, I think, 7 over the last 3 games,
Right.
and holding PI category. And it being a cost of business, doing business, how do you make sure that he kind of maintains an aggressiveness and, living big with some of those penalties?
Yeah. I think the first thing for LJ is at the line of scrimmage, nothing is going to change other than lowering his target. He may have had one that was called hands to the face, but majority of his penalties are going downfield when he's in phase. And so with that being said, not to get too technical, what LJ is going to have to do and what we've been working on and even started working on it last week and hopefully it'll start clicking in is once he's in phase running down the field with the wide receiver, he has to know right now that at that point in time as you're reading your keys, when that wide receiver sinks his hip, you have to make sure that you're just pumping your arms. But what he's doing is he's grabbing, he's reaching, trying to just hold on, almost like a little kid would do to a mommy or daddy when they're trying to run away from him. He's like grabbing. And so he's just got to trust that my ability is good enough to run the route with him. And that's one of the things that we're working on. But majority of them, again, is happening once he gets in phase downfield. So and that's what we're working on.
You guys have had him tail the opposing tallest and best receiver. How difficult is that, and what makes him so good at that?
Yeah. So we give LJ a Nim Leeson assignment. You go and take care of this. And so therefore he can study film on that particular wideout, and he's done pretty decent so far. I know there's some plays that he wish he can have back on certain guys, but overall, LJ being able to go and match up with an elite receiver that's outside or inside, that allows you to do a lot of different things. And so we've been blessed to be able to have a young man like LJ and his skill set. If we remember, he came out of college as a safety, and he thought he was going to play safety in the NFL. And so we tricked him a little bit and hypnotized him and said, you can play corner. Wait a minute, you're going to play nickel this first year. You know, T5 was excited. The Honey Badger was excited because he can go back and play safety. But LJ, he's learning constantly still. And so he's just a fun guy to be around. And when you can match him up, he doesn't flinch. So it's been great.
Hey, Dave, what traits of Steve's do you think enabled him to be successful as a coordinator and things that perhaps influence you even?
Yeah, Spags and I go back long ways. I mean, I'm talking back to 2001. We were friends. I still remember when Tom Coughlin called me in 2006, heading into the 2007 season, and asked me about Spags. And I was at the Senior Bowl at the time, and next thing you know, he became the coordinator. But some of the traits that he brought to the Giants when we first started coaching together in 07, 08 was his consistency to just basically stay the course. No matter what happens, he is preaching the same message, and he is teaching fundamentals, which is one thing that I pride myself on, is teaching the kids, the young guys, fundamentals. But he stays consistent to what he's called to do. And when he came back after he left in the 08 season and came back in 2015 at the Giants, I was like that cockroach you couldn't get rid of at the Giants. You know, I was just there when he came and was there when he left, and then there again when he came back. But he came back with the same fire and eagerness to be able to teach young guys how to play football, even if it's just something small as playing curl flag. All right, where are your eyes? Where's your angle of departure? How he teaches the technique and how he convey his message to the young guys is one of the things that I see that is one of his great skill sets. And so I'm happy to be around him.
And just part of that is also, obviously, he's consistent, but also innovative, I see you'd say.
Oh, yeah.
Those two go together.
Yeah, I actually just yesterday in the defensive back room, and after I made this statement, Mike Edwards as well as Deion Bush shook their head. I told the young guys, I said, you would never play in another system that's as hard as this one. We play from cover 0 all the way up to 3D clue 2-to-1 read corners. I said, so no matter where you go from this point on, if you find another coordinator that puts more on your plate to know, technique-wise, to know coverage-wise, that changes up with the same look, I said, make sure you give me a call and I'll pay you $100. So, and I said that, asked the guys, I told them that yesterday, because there's no other coordinator in the league that's going to give you the amount of volume that Steve gives the players every week. And it's constantly changing and it's fluid. And so it's exciting.
3 left,
Yes.
Adam.
Dave, with Trent McDuffie, we obviously see he's playing better, but when you look at it, what are the reasons why, you think?
I think maturity. He came in here as a mature guy. Trent was probably the highest graded corner that I had ever graded coming out of college. So his IQ was already there. Never, ever imagined that Trent would be here with the Chiefs. And so when we were able to go up and get him, that was a big Christmas gift to all of us. And so I think just his maturity, his ability to be able to take it from the classroom and what you say verbally and can picture and visualize what it is that you want him to do. And so once you get on the field, you're not wasting time explaining it again. So a lot of guys, as you explain it in the classroom audibly, then all of a sudden you may draw it up on the board. Okay, then they may see it. Some guys still need to walk through. Trent is able to take what you give him. He's able to basically grab the concept and be able to just compartmentalize it and put it where it's supposed to be, and then he can use that tool when it's time to use it. He's tremendous.
When you say highest graded, you mean overall?
Yeah, I mean, Trent, from my 20-plus years, just been in the league a little bit, he is the highest graded corner that I've graded that we've been able to draft. Let me say that, as far as drafting. And then there's been some other guys, you know, you look at the Sauce Gardners, don't get me wrong, Cromartie back when he was at Florida State, but I'm just saying for a guy that I've been able to coach coming out of college, I've never had a guy like Trent McDuffie fall to us.
Dave, back to Snead for a second. You talked about how making him a corner when he
Yes,
first
sir.
got here. It's easy to see now, you guys made the right decision. Was it that easy to see then, or was it maybe a difficult decision?
No, you can see it now. He's a COVID baby. So, and I say that because I didn't meet him until we got to training camp. So I saw him on video, and I call him all the time, "You're a COVID baby." So we didn't have a chance to work with you in the off season, and so from day one, when you saw this young man's explosiveness in and out of breaks, and then you didn't know that he had then the violence that you can see within his football violent nature, but he has heavy hands and he's a competitor. Even in our jog through, there's a young man by the name of Anthony that run routes for us, and Snead would like for Anthony to release full speed every time, and we're in jog through. That's not Snead's MO to just walk through. He wants work every day. So you could see that right away that he was going to be pretty good.
Last one.
Dave, you mentioned Trent taking what you guys, put in the film room
Yes, sir.
on the board,
Yes, sir.
transferring that onto the field.
Mhm.
He's had a knack for creating turnovers this
Yeah.
season.
Yeah.
Is he doing it just like you guys drew it up?
He sure is. I mean, he is, and I cannot, no one can take the credit for that because Trent has the want to. Just like when you see players punching at the ball, raking at the ball, you look at Peanut, Tillman back in the days. He had a knack for getting the ball out when he was at Chicago. Trent is turning into that type of player. And I think runners, wide receivers are starting to realize, okay, you better go, two hands on the ball when you're around McDuffie. And so it's something that is just within him to know that, okay, hey, the ball is in front of me. Why not just reach for it? That's what he did with Tyreek. Tyreek had the ball in front of him like a baby where he was going to take it. And that's what he did. And so it's just something that's just within that particular person to be able to do that. We can drill all we want to, but you have to go and do it once the film comes on as well as the game starts to play.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks a lot, Dave.
Thank you, guys. All right. Blue Valley, big one. Round 4.
Told you guys.
Welcome to the office. And this is you. They hired you.